In the film Barbershop, a character named Eddie argues that
Rodney King should have got his ass beat for driving drunk and being grown in a Hyundai. OJ did it.
and his final piece of working class wisdom, for the black community to begin solving their own problem, Eddie says,
What I'm saying is that black people need to stop lying.
this character came to mind as I watched a drama unfold in Chicago following the recent bloody, barbaric mob killing of 16-year-old Derrion Albert. Albert was beaten to death with splintered railroad ties after getting caught in the middle of a feud between two rival gangs while on his way home from school. The grainy cell phone video of the killing is sickening and hard to watch, but you should see it. What does this remind you of? Since Derrion Albert's killing, the usual platitudes about the root causes of violence are being thrown about.
What kind of person, what kind of individual has such rage and such anger and such madness? We have got to get to the hearts of our children.
One local resident in the neighborhood where Albert was killed agreed that the attack was barbaric, but offered the excuse that the young people vilified as savages are themselves constantly beat upon by brutal forces. Oh yeah? So are we supposed to see the thugs who killed Albert as what? Victims? At the young man's funeral, there were more platitudes. The Nation of Islam's Louis Farrakhan called on people to support their youth. And Jesse Jackson demanded that
we have an obligation to demand and prepare for our children safe passage.
Isn't that like arranging for safe passage of innocent Afghans through Taliban-controlled territory? Shouldn't we be eliminating the gangs, not escorting kids through the asphalt jungles that should be their safe haven? The four young men accused of killing Derrion Albert are from Altgeld Gardens, and they were apparently involved in some beef with some other youths from a neighborhood known as The Ville. Oddly, Altgeld Gardens is the same housing project where Barack Obama spent 3 years as a community organizer. And it is here that violence and homicide is on the rise. There were 34 deaths and 290 shootings last year. And since January, 40 students have been killed in violent incidents. The videotaped killing of Albert caused the White House to comment. Robert Gibbs, Obama's press secretary, called the murder
chilling video.
Then the president sent Eric Holder, the Attorney General, and Arne Duncan, his Education Secretary, to Chicago. As one would anticipate, Obama's minions would throw tax dollars at the problem. Duncan announced that the school attended by the dead youth will receive $500,000 in federal money. But toward what end? Even more wasteful, a study of youth violence in Chicago financed with $60 million in federal stimulus grants. The study's brilliant conclusion is that students at the highest risk of violence are most likely to be black, male, without a stable home, in special education, skipping an average of 42 days of school, and having a record of in-school behavioral flare-ups. No kidding. They could have just paid me $60 and I'd have told them that. While in Chicago, Eric Holder said the problem of youth violence
is not a Chicago problem, any more than it is a black problem, a white problem, or a Hispanic problem. It is something that affects communities big and small, and people of all races and all colors.
I agree there's a larger American dilemma, something we all need to worry about regardless of race or background, but there has to be some honesty here. The U.S. Justice Department's Bureau of Justice Statistics confirms that almost half the people murdered in the United States each year are black. Further, 93% of blacks killed are killed by, you guessed it, other blacks. Liberals will say it's politically incorrect to refer to this as black-on-black crime, but ask black folks living in gang-ridden neighborhoods about the problem and they'll tell you exactly what they want done to gangs, and they'll do it in very colorful language. Though blacks account for just 1/8 of the U.S. population, the Bureau reports they are 6 times more likely than whites to be victimized by homicide. More than 40 years ago, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan warned about the collapse taking place in urban black families that would result in chaos and crime. Of course, he was accused of blaming the victims by the civil rights leadership of that day. Today, 70% of black children are born out of wedlock and 60% are raised without fathers. On this topic, the data is clear. Children raised without married parents and intact, stable families are more likely to go bad. And on the mean streets of Chicago, that looked like a 16-year-old kid getting beaten to death by a mob of thugs. Dealing with this level of social dysfunction will require a national campaign led by churches, civic associations, and new leaders to strengthen black families and support the community's efforts to overturn the thug culture of urban America. Dealing with this requires brutal honesty. The legacy of 16-year-old Derrion Albert deserves it. Even the old civil rights warhorse, Jesse Jackson, in a moment of candor, confessed, "There is nothing more painful for me at this stage of my life than to walk down the street and hear footsteps and to start to think about robbery. Then I look around and see it's somebody white and I feel relieved." How humiliating. As the make-believe film character Eddie the Barber says, it's time to stop lying.